Gymmaxxing is one of the best ways to improve your appearance. I mean, sure, it won't work for everyone to the same extent, but everyone can improve and it's definitely worth it for the average guy. So, let's break it down. Let's begin with probably the most popular muscle group, and that's abs. Everyone's talking about six-packs, and they do look nice, but they're a bit overrated. The reason I'm saying this is because people can't see your abs 95% of the time. Even during summer, you most likely walk around wearing a t-shirt, so I'm going to give them a B. Once again, great muscle group, it's synonymous with fitness in the minds of many men and women, but most of the time you can't show them off. And about the six-pack thing, not everyone has one, and I mean even underlying the fat. Some people have 4 packs, while others have 8 packs. So, even if you do get shredded, it's not promised that your abs will look as great as you think. Let's continue with another very popular muscle group, and that's the chest. It seems like everyone's favorite day is chest day, and it's probably my favorite muscle group to train too. It's something about that chest pump that feels awesome. However, it's still kinda overrated by most men. Having a nice chest is definitely a big bonus, but it's not the most important thing in a man's physique. Contrary to abs, a nice chest can still be shown off with a proper t-shirt, however it's still not the first thing that's noticeable, and it's definitely not noticeable while wearing winter clothes. I'll also put this one in B. Again, nice muscle group, love to train it, but slightly overrated. So, what's not overrated? What is the thing that's noticeable at first glance? The answer is shoulders, and I mean the whole frame, not just the deltoid muscle group. If I showed you a shadow of a man and a shadow of a woman, how would you tell them apart? The telltale sign is the shoulder to waist ratio and the waist to hip ratio. A big shoulder to waist ratio is probably the most aesthetically pleasing thing a man could have. It's visible with almost any kind of clothes. It definitely belongs to S tier. Again, I'm referring to the whole package, not just the muscle. I know people that have big deltoids, yet their frame is still horrible due to the bone being narrow, or appearing narrow due to a big waist or hips. Now, let's talk about the back. I know that there are many muscles there, but I'll talk about it as a whole. Some people neglect it and focus on the front muscles, meaning the chest, abs and biceps. I think that the lats can help in giving you that V shape, so it's definitely not to be neglected. However, the desired shoulder to waist ratio is primarily determined by your shoulder width and waist. I know people with well-developed backs who have the thickness, but they don't have the width. I'll also place this one in B. Something a bit more important are the arms, meaning the biceps, triceps and forearms. I know that the biceps get more attention. We all know the typical double bicep pose, even those who have never seen the inside of a gym. However, the triceps cover about 2/3 of your upper arm, so don't neglect them. The thing about the arms is that they are more visible than the rest of your muscles. I mean, sure, a well-developed chest will also stand out, but the arms are literally naked when you're wearing a t-shirt, and they get lots of love from the ladies. And the forearms can be visible year-round if you roll up your sleeves. So, due to their higher visibility, I'll put them in A. Some girls also go crazy for veins, so extra points if your arms are highly vascular. It has to do with how lean you are, but it's also somewhat genetic. Anyway, time to talk about the legs, meaning the quads, the hamstrings and the calves. The legs get probably the less love out of all the muscles, and I kinda see why. What's the last time you heard a girl commenting on a guy's legs? I think I've never heard a compliment regarding a guy's quads. However, we all know how bad it looks when a guy has chicken legs. My take on this is that you should train them to the point that you don't look disproportionate, but don't waste your time trying to build huge wheels if dating is your goal. And a key advice here is to not neglect your calves. I was sitting with a friend of mine and a bodybuilder guy walks by, and my friend instantly laughed at his legs. I'm like, you don't actually know if he has chicken legs. All you can see are his calves, so who knows, maybe the guy has monster quads under these shorts. Point here is that the calves will be the most visible muscle group when wearing summer clothes, so make sure you hit them properly. It's one of the muscle groups that are vastly dependent on genes. For example, I have good calves and I never train them. However, you can still improve them. So, I'll put legs in C. As long as you don't have chicken legs, you're fine. Ideally, you'd want every muscle group of your body to be equally developed, but we're talking about priorities here and where you should give a bit more emphasis. So I spoke quite a lot about visibility, and this inevitably brings us to one of Manosphere's obsessions, the neck. I'll also include the traps here. I don't get where this whole neck thing started, but it's overrated. You'll never hear a woman talking about a man's neck. Since it's visible, by all means train it, but don't start hitting PRs on your neck exercises. If we were talking only about the neck, I'd put it in C, but since I included the traps, let's place it in B. The traps help with your overall frame and are also visible with tank tops, so I think that's enough for the B tier. And now, an unexpected entry in the A tier, the cheeks. You know what I'm talking about. We all think about them when talking about female body parts, but trust me, they're very important in a man's body too. Literally all of my exes and female friends have made comments on this body part, they notice it almost as much as we do on them. And this is coming from someone who absolutely hates squats, but it's up there in A. Let's move away from the body parts and talk about the leanness of the body. We have a double winner here. By losing body fat, you'll most likely also lose face fat. Men overestimate how much muscle mass they need in order to be attractive, and they often focus more on being big rather than being lean. There are some women out there who are into the bodybuilder type of guy, but for most it's going to be too much. Going for something like Tom Holland's physique is both achievable and highly attractive for most women. So leanness definitely belongs in S tier. We covered the body parts that can be trained, but I know that there's a missing part, one that can't be grown with exercise, no matter how hard you try. Time to address the big purple eggplant in the room. I'm an average guy, I never had any complaints or any looks of surprise, either positive or negative. I've talked about this with some of my female friends. What I gathered was that having a big eggplant is definitely a nice bonus but not necessary. However, having a small one is definitely a trouble. Now, I know that many of you would like a number, but it's going to differ from country to country, so look at some relevant studies. Generally speaking, being around 5.5 to 6 inches is average for the Western world. So if you're around that spectrum, you shouldn't worry at all. Many surgeons state that most men that want an enlargement procedure don't actually need it. And I have a good idea what might have influenced these men. It's the sites that we don't visit during the month of November, or ideally year-round. You wouldn't compare your height to an NBA player, so don't do the same when it comes to eggplant size. I used to be friends with a girl who had her fair share, and we were very open with each other. I was telling her about my experiences and she was telling me about hers. Once she mentioned a huge eggplant guy and she was laughing while she was telling the story. It was like a spectacle to her, but it didn't make that much of a difference, and she only referred to this guy once. However, she couldn't stop talking about another guy who was average in the eggplant department, but according to her he was the best experience of her life. So once again, don't get insecure if you're in the average range. If you are way below the average of your country, then maybe consider doing something. I haven't done my research on this subject and how risky these procedures are, so I'm not qualified to make any comments. To sum up, improving your body is definitely a must if you want to see your full potential. One of my buddies who I've mentioned in many of my videos managed to ascend only by Gymmaxxing. He went from a skinny kid to a Greek god. And again, not everyone will see that kind of change, but even if you improve your SMV just by 1 point, it's worth it. Leave your comments below and I'll see you soon.